Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. My name's Tracy, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this solid granny square. Now, I've been asked to do this one. I have got a tutorial for a solid granny square, but it's slightly different to this one, and I'll explain as I go. But this is part of a project I'm making, which is to cover a stall for my new yarn room. So I'm using the slip stitch join, which I will do a separate tutorial for. I do have tutorials for it on my projects, but I'm going to do a separate one, so it's a standalone tutorial. And for this project I'm using ice yarn, only because that's what I had in my stash and I really wanted to make my stall with it because it's nice and shiny. So I'm using Rockstar in this gold colour, and I'm using Universe, which is all these lovely jewel colours. Now I'm hoping that it's going to show up on the camera when I'm doing the tutorial, but we'll see. So I'm making this with a 4.5mm crochet hook. These are 4-weight yarns, so an Aran weight, but they're quite thick because they've got this unspun quality about them. You can see it's not really woven. But it's quite a small hook for that in that respect, and I'm doing that because I wanted it to be nice and close, because I don't really want it to be too holey or pull too much, because it's to cover a stall. So if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and you'll be informed when there's new videos. There's lots of videos on my channel already, lots of tutorials. There's blog chats, live streams and competitions, all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to show you now how I start. So it's to start with a slip knot, and how I do my slip knot is just like this, but you can do it however you've been taught to do it, or however you do it. So now we've got the loop on our hook, we're going to do 4 chain, and a chain is yarn over and pull through. So that's yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. So I've got 4, and I'm going to make it into a ring by slip stitching into this very first chain. Now this is going to make a pretty small ring, which will look tiny at the start, but it will grow as we work into it. There it is. So for my first stitch I'm just going to chain 2, because I'm going to make this with UK treble crochet, which is a US double crochet. And to do that we're going to work in the center of the ring. So we're going to yarn over, go into the center of the ring, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the other 2. And I'm going to do that one more time for now, and I'm going to work over my tail as I go. You don't have to if you find it confusing, but it saves a lot of sewing in. So there's my second. Now that gives me 3 stitches, the 2 chain counting as the first, and my 2 UK trebles, US doubles. So I'm going to do 1 chain. Now I'm going to do 3 more, all in that same loop. Won't count because that's very off-putting. 2. Did I say I wouldn't count? Whoopsie. Okay, so this is my last one. Sorry, I'm leaning on my yarn. And 1 chain. So now I've got 2 clusters and I want 4. So I'm just going to pull out some yarn, and hopefully I won't be leaning on it again. So I'm going to do, it's rather hot so it's sticking to my hands. Have I done my chain? Yes I have. So I'm going to do 3 more in there for my 3rd cluster. Sorry, just trying to move the yarn a little bit, working over the tail too. And now I'm going to do, it's so annoying, it's so hot, 1 chain and another cluster of 3. Just pull that tail down so it doesn't get in the way. So this bin is my last one, I think. Let me see. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do 1 chain. This is where it's different, because this is the end of this colour for now. I'm just going to slip stitch into the top of my 2nd chain, and end off that colour. Just going to pause the video while I find my scissors. Here they are. Sorry, I don't need to pause. So I'm just going to snip off that colour, leave a nice generous tail. And then all I'm going to do to end that colour is to do one chain, but pull it right down, cinch it right down, and then pull the yarn out. So now I'm left with this circle with my 4 little clusters. So I'm not going to go into this one. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to join my yarn between my two of my clusters. I'm going to do it the opposite side because I only want to work on over one tail at a time. So now I'm going to bring in my second colour, and this is the one that I hope you're going to be able to see because it is a bit jazzy, a little bit jazzy. Anyway, so I'm just pulling out some yarn and not tangling it up with the Rockstar. So now I'm going to leave a nice generous tail, and I'm going to pull in a loop, and I'm going to work by doing my chain with my working yarn and my tail together. So I'm pulling both through. Then I'm going to drop, if it will let me, drop this tail. It's trouble when you're trying to work and it's hot. And that's my first chain I've done. So this is my second chain. And now that's going to count as my first stitch. So I'm going to do one more treble crochet into this same gap, and this is going to count as my second UK treble or US double. So now we need to work over these 3 stitches. So as you can see, there's 1, 2, 3. You might have to pull this one slightly over. Now the reason I've only done 2, I'm going to show you if you can see it. Each corner consists of 4 stitches, 2 this side and 2 this side. Now what we've done, the 2 chain is this first one, and we've just made our second one, and now we're going to work over those 3. So I've done half a corner, and I'm doing that because these next 2 rounds are both the same colour, so I want to make them invisible. I don't want a join that's visible. So I've done my half a corner, and now I'm going to work over this tail as well, and I'm going to go into these 3 stitches along the side and do my treble crochets. And I'm hoping that, I've put the light on, I'm hoping you can see what I'm doing. And so I'm going into each one of those 3, just into the stitch, which brings me back to the next corner. So I'm going to do a full corner in this one. So my corners consist of 2 UK trebles or US doubles, 1 chain, and then another 2 in the same in the same place or space. So there we are, that's my whole corner. The first one was half a corner, and this one is a full corner. So again, I've got 3 stitches. Now you can only see 2, so we need to pull that one across because there's our third, and we're going to go into our 3. I didn't quite work over that yarn because it doesn't it's not woven. It's quite easy for it to kind of split a little bit, so don't worry if you can't work over it. You leave a nice long tail and you can sew it in, but I just like to get rid of it as I go as much as possible. So there's my 3 along that side. I'm going to pull that out, and you can see we're now making a square. So I'm back at the corner, and I need to do another full corner. Okay, so that's quite easy. Into that gap there, I'm just going to do my next full corner, and this will be, actually that was a bit, still hadn't pulled that tight enough, that's better. So I'm just going to do my full corner in this one here. Now I've got my other colour, where I ended off with my Rockstar, and I'm going to start working over that tail. Just pulling out, this yarn is getting on my nerves a little bit. I'm just going to pull out a bit more. Now this one, because I ended where I did, it looks a little different, but I'm just going to go into this first one. As long as you're going into the 3, and this one is actually there. and then the third one is there. And I'm not sure if I'm actually working over the tail. No, I'll have to sew that one in. That's no problem. So I'm back at a corner, full corner once again. I know it's a little jazzy, this yarn, but I hope you can see it quite clearly. And then the last part of the corner. And now we're on our last side. So we've got 1, 2, there's the third. Put it across a little bit. 2, last stitch along the side. Now remember, when we first started, we started with half a corner, so we need to finish it off. So we're going to go into this corner and do our last 2, which is the second part of our corner. And this is how we make a seamless join. So now, if I'm going to zoom in for this bit because it's hard to see with all these colours. So now this is the first chain, this is the second chain. I'm going to do a UK half treble in that stitch. So what I'm doing, I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to go into that chain there, and I'm going to pull up a loop, and I'm going to yarn over and go through all 3. And in the UK that's a half treble, in the US a half double. We're going to zoom out because it's rather close, and I'm going to do 2 chain because this is a new round, and I'm going to do the second part of my first corner. I need to pull my yarn out already, just bear with me a sec. Pull out quite a bit. So I did the first 2 chain count as my first stitch, and this is my second one, so that's half my corner. So now I will have 7 stitches along here, and if you ever lose where you are, just count the tops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my first one. So I'll just go in there, make my first one, and it's 1 in each one of these stitches. And I do appreciate how hard it is to see these colours, but I was asked to do this one, so I'm obliging. So we're just going in each one along our side, and you can see where you've been. Oops, sorry about that, knocking the camera. So we have, where's our corner? There it is. We've got another 2 to go in. There's 1. And there's our second one. Now we're going to do a full corner just as we did before in that space. So that's 2. Let's move this one that way, putting me off. 2 in there, 1 chain, and another 2 in that same space. I'll try and get as close as I can, but if I do, then quite often my crochet hook knocks it, so I can't win. So as I said before, if you ever get lost, just remember that your first side, there's 3 along the side, and you've added 2 each side, so you end up with 7 along there, and this one you'll end up with 11 because you'll add 4 each time you go along. You'll add 4 to your sides because you've got 2 chain each one. So I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to go along and I'll meet you back here, but you're going to do exactly the same by going in each one, and if you get confused, just count them as I said. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, there you're going into this one. So do exactly the same, go in every stitch, and your 2, 1 chain 2 in the corner, and then in 1 in every stitch along, and I will meet you back here to finish that corner. Right, so I've made it all the way round. I've gone into my last stitch there, and so now I'm going to finish my corner with my 2 stitches. Now, when I finished the previous corner, I did a half treble into my top chain. Not going to this time because this is my last round. If I was continuing in this colour, I would do the same. I would do a half treble and then keep going. But this is going to be my last round of these stitches, so I'm going to just do a chain and slip stitch into that top chain. It's because my hook has got a little hot, it's hard to get in. And now I'm going to leave a nice long tail and just pull that out like that. So now I've ended off. I don't see the point in doing an invisible join if I'm changing my colour and I'm going to work over my yarn in every stitch. It's just making extra work for myself in a way. So now I'm going to finish off. Just going to collect this yarn up before I do, because otherwise it will get in the way, and bring back in the Rockstar, because each one of my squares I've finished off in the same way. And I just want to show you and explain that why I'm kind of doing different corners and different things at different places, so it keeps it neater for me. So now I'm going to join in an opposite corner because I don't want to work over two tails, so I'm just going to join into this corner, and once again I'm just going to bring a loop through, and I'm going to do one chain with both my tail and my working yarn, but I'm going to bring it down a little bit so it's not bulky chain. I'm going to drop that tail. Now in this corner I'm just going to do 2 UK double crochets, which is a US single. So I'll do my first one and I'll just pull this a little tighter because I don't want that to be too bulky. So what I'm going to show you then is how I did that stitch. Is just into the gap, into the space, yarn over and pull up a loop, 2 on the hook, yarn over and pull through 2. So now you're going to do 1 in every single one of these stitches all the way along. So don't forget the first one is there, and we're going to do that in all of the stitches along our edge. You can just about see them. I'm sorry, it's a very dark coloured yarn and I have put the light on, but it's because they're all these beautiful jewel dark colours. So here we go. I'm going to go into every single one. I'll do it nice and slowly so you can see what's happening. I might even try to zoom in and see how we go. See what I mean about these? It's shiny, it's dark, but it is beautiful. So I'm just going to go in each and every one of them all the way along. Just about see where they are with the colour scheme. And the corner on these is slightly different again, and I'll explain why when I get there. And one more stitch and we're at the corner. So now my corner, normally speaking, when you get to a corner you'll do 3 stitches. If you're doing just going around the corner, you'll do 1 for this side, 1 for this side, and 1 in the middle, but I'm just going to do 2. I want 1 on this side and 1 on this side, and then I'm going to go in every stitch along. And the reason that I'm doing that, I'll just do a few more and then I'll show you what that looks like. Going nice and slowly so that you can see each stitch. So this is in the UK a double crochet, but in the US a single crochet. Okay, so I'll pull that out a little bit and I'll show you. So it turns the corner nicely, it doesn't make it overly bulky and make this hole bigger. So that's one of the reasons, but the other reason is when I do my join, I'll go into 1 stitch of the corner for this side, and then the second stitch will be this side. That was a bit fluffy, it's hard to see. So there you can see I've got, this is my first, where are we? I get one where it looks like, it's very fluffy stuff. So I'll just go in 1 stitch and this one here will be that side. It's hard to show you, but that's kind of what I mean. So that when we're doing this, there's your 2 stitches. This one will be part of this line and this one will be part of this line. It'll bring it very tight together. There'll be no stitch in the middle, and that's why I wanted to do that, because I want this chair to have as few little holes as possible and to be as tight as I can. I mean, obviously when you're making anything else, if you want it to be more kind of not drapey exactly, but if you want it to be a more defined space, then you can do your 3. So here we are at the corner again, and I'm just going to do my stitch for that side and my stitch for that side, and then 1 in every one. So it's kind of difficult to see this one. I think just if you're in doubt, just count them, but I'm sure that is my first stitch there, and you can see that through there, and just keep going all the way along. So I'm going to pause the video because you now know exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to pause that and get back to the start, and I shall come back to you. Okay, so I've made it all the way round, and I'm on my last stitch. Now we did have 2 in that side, so we don't need to do any more. It's a little hard to get into this yarn to slip stitch, but I'm going to force my hook in and do my slip stitch into my first of my corner single crochets or double crochet UK, and now I'm going to end off the same way as before, 1 chain, cinch it down and pull it through. Now I do have already another tutorial for a solid granny square. It's with 3-weight DK yarn, and it's slightly different, but if you want, I will put a link to that at the end. This tutorial, there'll be a right-handed, left-handed version, and I'll link to both of those as well. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed that. That's my last one done. So now all I've got to do, because I've made 4 along each, zoom out a little bit, 4 along each edge, and there's 3 along, because it's a rectangle, so there's 3 along that side, 4 along the long side. So I've finished all my squares, and I've got to make my top, which I'm going to do slightly different. But what I'll do is once I've finished it, I will do it as a Whip Wednesday show and tell or something. So thanks for watching, and until next time, bye bye for now.